Hello, everyone, and welcome. Happy Tuesday. We are very excited to have Dan Ahrens back on the Alpha Nooner, ready to talk through all things cannabis and more. I think we'll start probably walking through what's moving in the market and then get into the cannabis conversation from there. But a good reminder, if you have any questions, comments, anything, you are always welcome to throw them in the chat. Take them on every platform except for Instagram. Also, hey, Stevie, I see you in the mix. Happy Tuesday as well. Hope you're having a great day. It's a short week this week, I guess, as well, which is kind of weird. Are you doing
Very
anything for
weird.
the long weekend? Is there any special plans, anything different?
It is. I'm going to go take in some world champion Texas Rangers opening weekend. I'm not going to opening game, but I'm maybe opening weekend and taking some baseball. So I'm looking forward to that starting.
That
And
sounds
then
good.
I'm going to overeat and overdrink for Easter brunch because that's what we do.
I think that's really portfolio. You're, trying to get in the mind of what's going on. You're trying to hit into vice, into beds, I think it's not beds, eats, not beds. You're trying to just do some research, I feel like it's the same
And
thing.
then to be completely domestic, I am actually looking forward to working on my lawn Friday. So I'm going to do that.
Very domestic. All right, well, that's nice. It's nice to be able to take the time, and I feel like it's gotten a lot warmer there. We've had a little bit of a cold snap again on the East Coast, which has been not so fun. But we'll get there again eventually. Who knows?
Yeah, spring has sprung in Texas, although it's like in the 40s outside right now, which is weird. But
That's cold. That sucks. I feel like the Puxatawny Phil, its record is like right 20% of the time or something, and they predicted spring, so it's not surprising that we have a bit of a cool spring.
there
What
you
are you
go.
gonna do? All
What are
right,
you
well
gonna do?
then let's jump straight in. I feel like hitting some of the names that are moving today first. So no surprise to anyone who is following the cannabis space. A lot of names moving in the cannabis space today, mainly on sort of the international side. I saw a lot of names in YOLO moving, but definitely a ton in MSOS as well, which is great to see. We'll talk a little bit more about why that might be happening. Again, could be just buyers and sellers. Comes down to the basics a lot of the time. But that is good to see. On the restaurant side of things, I saw Red Robin was moving pretty well today. That one is a strong, strong, strong underweight in the ETTF,
Yeah,
which is good because this year to date, it's had a little bit of a tough go, but I think overall it's sort of that it speaks to that good management of not having it super high in the holdings. On the other side of things,
I don't have to have it there at all, but we do. So
well,
I'm
it's a
glad it's
small
moving
amount.
today. Glad it's moving today.
It's moving today positively, which is great. And then speaking to what you kind of weight more heavily, I saw Chipotle was moving again. I know it's had kind of a crazy, was it few weeks? I know it had that stock split, which was crazy. Did you also see Eddie Elfenbein? If anyone is following him on X or Twitter, highly recommend. So funny and also a lot of great market insight. But he was saying, why is everyone talking about Chipotle's stock split for 50 to 1? Everyone should romaine calm like lettuce.
Yep. Yep.
It was very solid. Anyhow, but that one's been having a tremendous year. And
Yeah, and that's one of the very top holdings, one of the
yeah,
largest holdings in
top
the
performer.
EATS ETF, as
Mhm,
is Wing
mhm.
and a few others. And for those that follow the space, it's not fast food, that's fast casual. And
Mhm.
fast casual is a little bit of the sweet spot in that space right now. Another fast casual is we have Kava right up at the very top. So,
Yep.
yep, big fans of Chipotle, and it's doing well in that
Yeah.
fund.
It's great to see. I will say also we've talked a lot about sort of in eats, a lot of the names, whether that's fast casual or fast food, really leaning into that tech kind of edge. I think we've seen a lot. I know Chipotle has been very involved in
Certainly.
that in general. And I know like their loyalty program, very successful in general as well.
Yep.
But interesting to think of. I think as we've seen a lot of these benefits start to come out for a lot of these companies using, tech in general, there are also risks. One that is not in eats is Panera Bread. Recently had like some sort of cyber attack, something like that. They had a big outage. So I don't know. I think that'll be also interesting to see in terms of going forward. You got to have that cybersecurity locked down, even if you're McDonald's or Chipotle or whatever. Just one of those things of being a company in 2024. It's important to have that cybersecurity locked in.
Definitely.
Um, all right, what else is moving? This one is an interesting one. It is a triple holding across 3 ETFs. So it's in Vice, Beds, and GK. MGM Resorts. So, not surprising, big theme that we've seen so far this year, sports betting has been a big one. So I know, they've been getting a ton of, I don't have the stats specifically in front of me, but for March Madness, I know that they've had, a ton of investment, or not really investment, I guess, gambling ultimately. Neither of us are putting money on March Madness, right? We haven't
Speak
done.
for yourself. No,
Okay.
I'm not. I'm not. No, no. I did a
I'm not
few
either.
brackets and they got blown up on the first day. I used to think I was really good at my brackets, but that's not real betting, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I'm not. Yeah, MGM Mirage, MGM Resorts is up 4.18% right now on my screen,
Mhm.
and it has through additions, but mainly just through appreciation. That is now the number 3 holding
Wow.
in Vice. It's kind of risen up to the top. Um, Now I've been eyeballing a lot of others. I've looked, recently at Wynn. I've
Mhm.
looked at Las Vegas Sands and not liking them so much. So they're
Interesting.
not in the fund. Um, I recently added a little bit more to Boyd. Boyd Resorts or casinos. For those that don't know, they are very big in the Vegas locals market
Mhm.
and many other regional casinos. But yeah, BetMGM is a great app and website. And
Successful.
that's the sports betting has really amplified in recent years because back in the old days, you had to go to Vegas to do it. You couldn't even go to your local casinos and do it. They didn't have sports betting. And the ability to do it on the app and across state lines and locally, it has expanded greatly.
Yeah, and
So
just more starts
MGM.
more states opening up in general. I do wonder if eventually we see some
Yeah.
pushback 'cause I think it's hugely successful. I think a lot of people are, it's just sort of a human nature thing, not necessarily, but to try to gamble sometimes every so often. But I just feel like
Yeah.
with the tech and being able to access it all the time, if
Yep.
people in college have it, I get a little nervous or something like that. But again, it seems to be growing and expanding. So we'll have to see
Well,
what's the
yeah, you see
direction.
a little bit of like Florida is trying to crack down on,
Mhm.
social media apps and so on for children, all this kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
no, for sports betting, like I just look at, the lottery. I mean,
Yeah.
hell, the odds, the odds are a lot better on casino gambling and sports betting. They take a smaller cut than the lottery does.
Yeah.
And lottery is,
Yeah.
um, we've used these terms before talking about cannabis, but the horses left the barn, the trains left the station, all that kind of stuff. No, they're not. They're not going to dial back sports betting. They might put in a few controls to
Yeah.
try to limit illicit activity
Mhm.
and bribes, things like that.
I
But
guess.
no, it's not going to turn back.
Okay.
So,
Interesting. All right, fair
but
enough.
MGM is my top pick in that little space.
There you go. Love it. And then going all the way back around. So this one's kind of an interesting one. It's not technically in our universe of stocks that we look at, but I know it's been a big story today. But the whole uh, donut ticker DNUT, Krispy Kreme, McDonald's deal. It seems like they are moving very strongly today.
Yep.
Although, again, year to date, that one's not held in EATS, just to be clear. Year to date, having a
Yeah.
tough, tough, tough year to date. So good not to be holding it. I mean, glad to see that they're doing well and interesting to see how they'll frame it with the kind of partnership. I don't know if it'll be McDonut, McGlazed. What's the term? Mc
You got
something.
me. But
I
no,
don't know.
that's a great move for Krispy Kreme, D Nut, and it's on our watch list, and we've chosen to avoid it at this point.
Which is good.
And it's funny because I don't know, I put that in a little bit the same category as Dunkin', and that's in the same category as Dutch Bros and so on. But no, again, a lot of the fast food and donuts are kind of the lower end of fast food. They've had kind of the toughest road in this modern economy of ours and inflation and
Mhm.
everything else. That's why some of the fast casual that are also utilizing technology for more takeout orders and speed and less employees.
Mhm.
Uh, donuts have been tough. So great move partnering with McDonald's. So
Yeah,
good for
that's
them.
true. And great move for you for avoiding it, I think, as well. I know, again, moving a little bit today, but still, even with that move, year to date, very, very, very down. So check the performance on your own, of course. But that was sort of an interesting story, I think, to
Yeah, that's
you.
not, me being any great knowledge. That's just looking at the ratings and
It pans out.
certain analytics that we use for earnings revisions, earnings momentum,
Mhm.
and D Nut was not passing. So,
Donut, D-nut. Yeah, that's true. Fair enough. All right, fair enough. Well, then let's do a reverse munchies. We've talked about fast food. We've talked about donuts. Let's get back into cannabis a little
it's
bit.
about time.
It's about time. I know. All right. Well, let's start with sort of an overall temperature check. Where are we? How are you feeling? And then let's get into some of the specifics.
Fine. I
Okay.
mean, it's the I don't know. The sentiment is so crazy day to day, and
Yes.
because I foolishly look at the Twitter sometimes, and yesterday I felt like commenting on Twitter because we had a lot of red, especially late in the day.
Mhm.
I will go ahead and call out marijuana moment for being. And then I had people yelling at me, "Do you mean they didn't say that?" So let me back up here. An article came out yesterday about
Mhm.
a Republican committee that came out with a statement about being anti-safer banking, um, you know,
Say it's a gateway
cannabis
drug, the whole, yeah,
gateway drug,
classic stuff.
all the typical, reefer madness stuff.
Mhm.
And then it came out with a little bit of research that they actually used a chart and I guess footnotes or something from Sam, and it was complete propaganda. It also came out right after Congress went to recess, and
Mhm.
it says it's from this committee. So then there was people online saying, "Oh, Nancy Mace, why are you whatever?" No, she's a member of that committee who has voted for safe banking. Always a big proponent of cannabis legalization and reform.
Mhm.
And no, it was one person that's the head of that committee that put out this, you know, anti, cannabis message.
Mhm.
But no, I got really pissed off yesterday. I did because Marijuana Moment chose to amplify that story. That was a factual story, but
Mhm.
they chose to amplify it, not give the real details about all the GOP members who are in favor of federal reform. It was put out by the head of that committee, and they chose to, put out some sensationalistic headlines about it, which pissed me off.
I think it's
Oh,
hard when sentiment is a little bit choppy, but I think in general they do a really good job of covering, everything that's going
no, they
on.
don't.
Like there's so much stuff to cover and, I think they do a good job of breaking that down. I do think that they did try to mention Mace being very vocal and supportive, but I think it does get lost kind of in the headline sometimes.
Yeah.
So I understand sort of
No,
the perspective there, but
he's got chippy with people online before that try to ask anything about
okay.
investment, anything about business, and they end up wearing their politics on their sleeve, which is very I don't know. He's probably still hoping that New York um, social equity programs work out. So anyway, nope. I am tired of their rhetoric that is anti-business, anti-investment. They don't want to discuss anything about investment, and the entire industry would not exist without investment dollars and investment backers, unless you think the whole thing should be, government controlled, which is a joke.
Well,
So
I wonder what's your
I got chippy about it yesterday.
that's
But
fair. So what's your thought on the balance right now? Because I feel like there are a lot of people who support cannabis reform or change, but for a wide variety of reasons. I think there are some people who are pretty much strictly social equity or kind of on the social justice side of things. I think there are
yeah.
some people who just see it strictly as it's another business, it's another thing. I don't know. Do you think that's shifted and changed at all from, when we first really
Well, I
started hearing about
mean,
it? Or
New York State is a great example of complete total mismanagement and corruption, and even the people that might have had the right intentions All
Mhm.
they had to do is look at other states from other models and see what works. And they completely screwed all that up. So they're trying to fix it. So yeah, and I don't know. It's there's people. It depends on if you're looking at if you. I wish the political arguments would stay out of politics, because you know what? There's
Never gonna
Democrats
happen.
that are against federal reform too. Is it the
Sure.
majority? No, it's very, very few. Most Democrats are for reform, but Schumer has done nothing but block safe banking. You know, Cory Booker wanted to lay himself down to block safe banking, while they gaslight us about what kind of reforms they want. Republicans, yeah, there's plenty of Republicans that are old school, reefer madness prohibitionists that want to block everything. And there's plenty of Republicans that are for banking only because it makes sense for business, and they know that they're not turning back cannabis business in their state, so they're at least for banking, which we need to let move forward because
Mhm.
it's one domino. And there's other very vocal Republicans like Nancy Mace, for instance, that are proponents of wider reaching federal reform. So that's why I get chippy when people make it overly politicized.
I think it's
We should be
hard
on the
to
same size.
I know, it's true. I think it's hard to separate fully, like, maybe from its history to some degree, but I think also it's sort of the letting perfect be the enemy of good in terms of how you're implementing it or making changes. We talk a lot about, having something that works and, you know you know, kind of has that public safety aspect, 'cause I know there's a lot of issues with the illicit market and what can kind of circle through there. So I don't know. I think it's finding some steps that lead towards good progress. I mean, obviously, it's hard to do, otherwise someone would have perfectly done it already, but yes, I don't know. I think it's gonna be very hard to get the politicized component out of the politics of it. Who
Oh
knows?
yeah, I didn't say it was possible. I just
Yeah,
said
I wish, yeah. That's true. Yeah, we'll see. But again, I think that's another sort of horses out of the barn, so things are changing. You need to be kind of in control of how they change and kinda getting your arms around it a little bit, so
yeah. So you know what? Let's back up a step, and I'll be positive.
good.
Um, Nothing's changed in the last couple of weeks. I
Yes,
think
unfortunately.
uh, if anything, we've had much more positive momentum. Um, you know, we had the vice president have a special meeting and urge the DEA supposedly to move forward with their approval of the HHS recommendation. Um, there's a real strong drumbeat again for safer banking. Even Chuck Schumer claims that
Ugh,
he's asking for things in that area. So, no, we're hearing, I don't know, it's more of a constant message
sure.
to get it done,
Mhm.
probably more than at any point in history, if you think about it. Now, I've said on here, and I've said on the Dale report and everything else that 2 weeks ago everything's great, stocks are going straight up. We're about to get it any moment. No, I said there's going to be extreme volatility still. There's going to be lots of negativity, and everybody should hold on tight for all that negativity, even if you're a long term bull on this stuff and you think it's going to get done. Um, there's going to be lawsuits. There's going to be Sam speaking up, getting things published. There's going to be headlines. There's going to be plenty of all that noise still. So don't ever think it's the opposite.
Do you even think that let's say, post DEA rescheduling or post SAFE or something like that, we still see that sort of struggle and
Absolutely.
narrative? Okay, dang,
It
it's
it, it ain't going to get done overnight. When the DEA comes out with that, there's still a hell of a lot of steps to happen.
sure.
And there's going to be lots of volatility still. These are they're not listed on NASDAQ yet. The
Mhm.
DEA approves it. Are they getting listed on NASDAQ right away? No.
I
I
wish.
think it'll lead to it. I do think it'll lead to it. It's a domino effect with multiple steps. and a hell of a lot of volatility in the meantime.
Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah. Strap in, I guess. Everyone has, I
Yeah.
feel like if you've been in cannabis for a while now, you definitely know that that's the case. So yeah, no
I
new
think,
surprises there,
yeah, I
unfortunately.
think lots of positives to come. I mean, I'm
Sure.
excited. I think it's coming,
Yeah.
but I'm going to buy more options on down days
Yeah. There you go.
with my
Fair enough.
personal money.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
There
well,
you
then
go.
outside of sort of the federal side of things, stateside, anything have you excited? I know Hawaii is an interesting story. Florida, we're still waiting on.
Yep.
Pennsylvania, I'm still I mean, everyone's still waiting on to some degree, but I know there's more
Virginia,
support for it.
Virginia.
Virginia, of course, as well. That's sort of a weird one too. I don't know.
Yeah,
What
it is.
about the
It
state
is.
side of things?
So, well, I was on the Dales report yesterday, and it was brought up, and Shad seems to think, or was that Anthony? Seems to think that when we think the court in Florida is going to remain quiet and let it pass rather than vetoing it, we think it's going to um, the clock's gonna
Run out.
tick, and it's gonna run out, and that will cause it to be adult use to be on the November ballot. So remember, that just puts it on the ballot, doesn't mean it's approved. I personally think if it gets on the ballot, I think there's enough momentum there and positivity, especially with a very successful medical program in Florida, that it's gonna pass vote. So I think when the clock runs out and the court hasn't vetoed it or stopped it, is the wording.
Mhm.
I think it's a pretty huge positive.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm biased here because we're invested this way, but yeah, there's people out there that think it'll just be a big negative. No, I think it's a huge positive, and I'm kind of looking forward to it.
It's good stuff. And I think we've seen some businesses continue to expand into Florida. I know that there's a pretty big footprint on the medical side of things, but when that turns over, that's gonna be pretty nice, I'm guessing. Okay. I hope so, we'll see.
I think so.
Um,
I'm bullish on it.
all right, well then okay, so Florida, we're waiting on. Pennsylvania, no real news there yet, but still hopeful. Virginia sort of had been close to progress, had kind of walked it back, but it seems like it's just back and forth a little bit towards eventually making progress. Any thoughts or
It's another thing where the clock runs out and things move forward. And remember, it's not about getting on a ballot. It's just about beginning adult use sales. And they're going to be able to turn on adult use sales in existing
locations?
medical markets and dispensary licenses. So it's another big
Yeah.
positive. And heck, we haven't even talked about Germany and why the LPs are running hot again.
Oh, yes. Do you wanna have
Everybody
that
look at
breakdown?
YOLO. Look at the fun YOLO. It doesn't get enough love. And
Don't overlook it.
I added to more positions in YOLO in the last couple of days, like
Yeah.
more Chronos, more just I don't know. I've been adding to the LPs, not necessarily Canopy, although it's in the fund, so I love
Sure.
it running up.
Mhm.
It's in the fund, same as Tilray, because I know those stocks can run up on days like these, but they're underweighted. I think I've said plenty of times that we really like Village Farms and High Tide. That's why they're the number 2 and 3 positions in that fund.
Mhm.
But no, we know that those stocks can run with news like this, and that's why YOLO exists, and that's why it is what it is. I
Yeah.
remember a couple months ago when people saw me trimming some of MSOs after MSOs had had a really nice run. I was locking in some recent gains and rebalancing YOLO just a little bit. And people were saying, "No, no, why would you do that?" Talking
Oh.
about saying it online for weeks like this. And the fund exists for a certain reason. It doesn't just need to have all MSOs in it.
Yes, that is true. It is its own thing. It's not just MSOS too. It is,
Yeah.
yeah, it has other access to stuff. Is it easier to rebalance YOLO kind of in general just because, again, Canada,
I
different market
guess.
political okay, slightly.
So
Who knows?
now I've said before that well, there's another fund out there that everybody was blasting it online for its really completely incompetent quarterly rebalance that they were doing. Remember those days?
Yes, I do. But recent
So I manage MSOs very gently, is all I will say. I don't think anybody wants me doing massive rebalances and hitting the bid on any of those positions in there.
that is true.
So yeah, I can be a little bit more tactical in YOLO as we see fit. That is
Yes,
all.
that is perfectly said. And yes, Jane, thanks so much for doing the updates. Again, very much appreciate it for both YOLO and MSOS as well. Thanks for replying with everyone. I think again, it's one of those things where when sentiment is high, everyone's very excited. When it's lower, it's tougher to get through. But we've been through it before. I think is the important reminder too. Is we've had tougher days than this for sure. I think, and the setup seems better, different. I don't know. So we'll see. But yeah, thanks, Jane. Very much appreciate it. Um, just wanted to touch on quickly. So I feel like a lot of the conversation has been around safe. I did want to just float. I'd seen an article on Delaware and them thinking about a bill to try to provide protection for servicing cannabis, legal cannabis,
Yep.
as well. I don't know. Do you see any of that movement coming from the state side of things? I mean, if you establish a precedent, I imagine you could move things
Well,
along.
I think it's fantastic, and remember that a number of states that have state taxes,
Mhm.
like we don't have here in Texas, so I don't know much about it.
True.
But no, a lot of the states started the movement about 280E.
Mhm.
They were going to make um, not have excess state taxes.
Mhm.
And lo and behold, now we're seeing a lot of chatter at the federal level about 280E. So no, it's I think it's what Delaware is doing is great. I think it's
Mhm.
just another step in the right direction of what states can do. Do I think it's huge? No, because it doesn't cause custody at federal banks like Bank of New York Mellon and B of A and JP Morgan and everybody else. Um, do I think it's a big step in the right direction? Yes. Would I like to see more states do that? Yes.
Yeah.
Does it just another layer that the lack of banking is just stupid and contradictory to everything we should be doing? Yes. So maybe we need, but no, we need to get things done at the federal level for
Yeah,
banking.
to me, again, it's just a reminder of, hey, there's a problem. People are going to try to continue to address it until it gets fixed in some way, whether that's federally or piecemeal by state by state. Again, not as
Yep.
ideal, piecemeal state by state, but I don't know if that benefits. Like, if we did get one state that allowed it, I guess it doesn't really affect the federal story. They're in progress. They're kind of moving already. It's not really
Yeah, and there are credit unions and
sure.
banks
Right.
around the nation that service cannabis companies. They exist,
Mhm.
but once again, we need it at the federal level. We need it at the federal level for credit card transactions. We need it
Yes.
at the federal level for custody, which is different than banking services, but intertwined. So anyway,
Yeah. No.
yep.
True. True. Hopefully, we'll get it fixed soon. Hoping. 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 All right. Well, then anything else on the cannabis side of things that's really been catching your eye or really been keeping you excited, keeping you worried?
No,
Any
just yeah. If you look at the insane ups and downs and news articles we've had the last 2 weeks, but then you dial it back a little bit. Has anything changed? No. Are we seeing a whole lot of positives right now?
Mhm,
Yes. Do I think the DEA is going to approve Schedule 3? Yes.
mhm.
Um, and if you don't think that, you shouldn't even be invested in the space, by the way.
Yes.
Um, so, no, we're all here for that. And I don't know.
No, agree.
Just don't focus on the day to days so much. Uh, Keep your eye on the prize for the long term.
Mhm.
And if anything, take advantage of these, headlines and little news pieces that cause red days. And it's all noise. If you look at the big picture, everything's really, really positive right now.
I think you're absolutely right, and that's a great way to look at it. On the opposite end of things, just curious, is there a date or a time that you will start to get nervous if things are still the same? Because I think, again, we're in that waiting pattern. Is it like November? Obviously, would be bad. But is there any time where you'd be like,
Yeah.
getting a little nervous?
I don't know, April
No.
20th, perhaps.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll see. But even if it doesn't happen by
Yeah,
420, it's still, on the table, but I'm just curious. Just 'cause
yeah, no.
frustrating.
Oh, no, if it'll be disappointing if we don't have things by 420,
Mhm.
and people will be asking questions. But there's been a lot of thought that we need to have some news by around a certain point, or it doesn't make any difference to elections.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. Um, are the agencies that answer to the White House, don't forget that,
Mhm.
as well as our politicians, using this as a political football? Yes, they absolutely are. No one should have any doubts about that.
Yep.
But the clock is ticking for when they can actually, how long they can, dangle it and play games with us.
That's my exact question is basically
Yeah.
how close can they ride it to the election where they get the most impact? 'Cause again, I don't think they have to have it fully realized. I think you could have it reschedule or have safe or something like that or some big milestone of progress, and even though it's not enacted fully, I think you can still get some benefit. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, it's sooner than later, but again, like you're saying, I think that long-term picture is important to keep in mind. So, ultimately, that's what it is, but it's always fun to just throw on a little question, I guess, whatever, who knows? All right, Dan, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. We will catch you next week. Enjoy the rest of your short week. Everyone, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Give us a like or a follow wherever you are, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Adios.
Before investing, carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses found in the prospectus, available at advisorshares.com.